Hello and welcome to another edition of Agenda 2063 TV show, the only show in Ghana, the region, the continent, telling important and authentic stories about Africa's integration and Agenda 2063. And so even if we have spent the better part of the season talking about aspects of African continental free trade area, we will always come back to the mothership conversation of Agenda 2063, its aspirations, what it means for you, for me, for everyone else, for the man in the street, and what we need to propagate Agenda 2063. My name is E.K Bensah Jr., your regular host for this show. Thank you. We're going to take a break in a minute. Once we return, we'll hit straight at you with our two important segments, APRM Watch and Ear on East Africa. We'll be right back. And welcome to another edition of APRM Watch. This is the space where I give you updates on developments around the African peer review mechanism, what it's doing, what it has done, what it seeks to do, and what it's all about, really. And in today's edition, we really just want to talk very briefly about some of the things that the APRM is doing around corporate governance. Now, we know about democratic governance. We talked a lot about it, what the APRM is doing with towards universal accession 2023, that is doing country reports. But what is not often known is that the APRM is also working around corporate governance, seeking to bring some ethics to the whole conversation around how corporations should conduct themselves when they do or prosecute their governance. So the APRM's work really in this new mandate and this new era of AU reforms is to support member states to strengthen corporate governance practices in their country and to ensure that there's policy coherence in the private sector. There's an understanding that there needs to be appreciation of entities so that they all sing in the same tune, which is really to say that people need to know that, yes, there are the private sector exists, but what is the private sector really doing coherently and correctly to make sure that everyone is on the same page as to what they're doing? This is important because the AU has already started developing some guidelines on corporate governance. It has not yet finished, and the APRM is seeking to promulgate or promote this as part of the expansion of its new and revised mandate, which was mandated by member states almost 2 years ago. But as far as governance practices is concerned, there needs to be a minimum level of requirement. And to this end, APRM single-handedly led and launched what they call a network of SOEs, or a network of state-owned enterprises, where these state-owned enterprises play a major role because as economic actors, they are now not just part of a network, but part of a network that can cross borders, that can conduct business, that can do this, that, and the other. So when they do that, how are they doing it ethically? How are they doing it correctly and judiciously? And so it's the reason for which APRM, some of the key staff there, decided that they would reach out to the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, because when they looked at the discussion on corporate governance, they realized that OECD has a number of networks to help this play out, the network of SOEs, but there's only one in the Southern African region, Southern Africa Development Community, SADC. So one of the staff there, Tumi Zlamini, whom I had the privilege of interviewing last week, explains that she then decided to approach the OECD to then say, look, let's have a network for the whole continent that would cover state-owned enterprises across the continent, what they're doing. So that all the parastatals in Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia, wherever else, they come together as part of a network and then they do business. But how can they do it ethically? And that's why this network of SOEs is important. And APRM comes in this space because it is then able to say, look, we are going to, with the help of the AU's provision of guidelines on corporate governance, also regulate how you work. It's not that you're just going to be able to do business across one region, across one continent without free for all. You must do it with some level of ethics. And so APRM is the only AU agency leading on this network of SOEs. It has not yet become fully continental. They're still working on it. But the understanding is that because the state becomes an economic actor, any economic actor therefore needs to be regulated. It cannot just be a free for all. And especially now that the African Continental Free Trade is alive and trading begins 2021, we are going to see more SOEs, state-owned enterprises, seeking to trade across territories. So Ghana SOEs, seeking to trade, let's say, in East Africa or in North Africa. And how do you ensure that they can do it ethically and that kind of thing? And often you will hear horror stories of, things that have not worked well, but that's only after the fact. And that is what the APRM wants to prevent. They don't want any after the fact stories. They want to make sure that where there's bad governance, it'll be nipped in the bud because there's some level of regulation as part of the network. So consequently, there is a necessity for developing the guidelines for corporate governance of SOEs, and with the AfTA coming, African Continental Free Trade Area, come into force in 2021, this will make things a whole lot easier and for corporate governance to be upheld. And so in that respect, let's keep our eye out on what the APRM is doing. It's doing some great work, and we really salute it for the good work that it's doing, considering the limited staff that they have and the limited funds. We'll continue to do our best to also ensure that with the APRM, as we've explained in different conversations and different spaces and editorials, with the APRM, there'll be some level of policy coherence in the understanding that the AU's Continental Free Trade Area has been, and never will just be about intra-African trade, but about dispelling the crisis of implementation around the AU and validating Agenda 2063. Agenda 2063 being a key player where even the APRM is also monitoring. So thank you very much, and we'll definitely be giving greater updates on this all-important topic for next week and over the next couple of weeks. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, so welcome once again to another edition of Ear on East Africa. To my East Africans who are watching, Jambo, which means hello, I believe. I was taught somewhere. But today's edition of Ear on East Africa is produced by my colleague, Beverly Ashan, Ghanaian who speaks Swahili, another alien. I've not yet met many Ghanaians who speak Swahili, but I'm glad to have met one, and she'll be helping me get some of these stories because it's important to also reach out to different audiences with some of the work that we've done. And so let me just start off with some of the important developments that are happening around the economic front. Tanzania, Rwanda, and Uganda, they're racing ahead to forge a single stock market. Yeah, West Africa, we've been doing that too, with all the BVRM, where we've got Ghana, Nigeria, Cape Verde, Liberia coming with the stock markets. And so we're ahead of the game. But nonetheless, it's good to know that East Africa, they're also doing it. And this has been dragging on for more than 5 years. Issues regarding lack of integration between software and trading systems of Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda. But it's finally been resolved. And so it's now paving the way for the Uganda Securities Exchange, Dar es Salaam Securities Exchange, and Rwanda Stock Exchange to actually work as a single entity. This newly formed stock market would ensure that investors in the three countries buy and sell shares of companies listed in any of the countries without having to go through different stockbrokers, which would be a whole different headache. Now, Ugandan stockbrokers currently take the largest share of stock trading commission at 3.2% of the value of transactions within East Africa and in Africa as a whole, while Rwanda and Tanzania brokerage commission on equity trading are regulated at 1.5%. The Nairobi Securities Exchange, however, is still on the fence about rejoining the partnership after pulling out in 2015, citing procurement irregularities. The project is expected to be up and running by the end of the month, and you can be sure that Nairobi will definitely jump into the waters of common stock exchange as well. WTO update, very quick one. Qualifying 5 includes 2 Africans. The race for the head of the WTO, World Trade Organization, is on, with the number of the candidates dropping from 8 to 5. This fierce competition saw Dr. Jesus Siasikuri of Mexico, Mr. Abdelhamid Mahmoud or Mamdou of Egypt, and Mr. Tudor Ulyanovsky of Moldova drop out of the race after receiving the least support from member states. The final 5 emerging from a 2-week consultation include Ms. Amina Mohammed of Kenya, who actually also applied for AU top position a couple of years ago, Dr. Ngozi Nkonja-Iweala of Nigeria, in the top race, gunning, a lot of people are gunning for her, and Ms. Yo Myung-hee of South Korea. Mr. Mohammed Maziad Al-Tuwajiri of Saudi Arabia, and Dr. Liam Fox of the UK. We acknowledge the feat achieved by the two African women, Ms. Amina Mohammed and Dr. Ngozi Nkoja-Weala, who have continued to forge ahead despite the heavy male dominance of the WTO. Ms. Amina Mohammed and Dr. Ngozi Nkoja-Weala still have lots to do, a lot of horse trading, a lot of wheeling and dealing ahead of the decision on August 31st, as the decision is made by consensus among member states. Of course, August 31st has already come, but it's just to explain the fact that a lot of work still needs to be done by them, and there's still a lot of developments going on, which we will definitely keep you posted about. Now, some quick updates on coronavirus on East Africa. In Uganda, its president, Yoweri Museveni, has announced a further easing of corona restrictions in the country, although the infection rate continues to rise. Amongst other ease in restrictions, he mentioned that the international airport and land borders will now be open for tourists, provided they test negative 72 hours before arrival in Uganda and must be taken straight away to the holiday destination with limited contact with Ugandans. I can imagine. Politics, very quickly. Aide to Tanzanian presidential candidate has been arrested. With only 37 days to elections in Tanzania, Jerome Luanda, an aide to the presidential candidate for Alliance for Change and Transparency, Act Wazalendo, has been arrested and is being held by the police for questioning on money laundering allegations. After conducting a thorough search of the belongings on arrival at the Julius Nyerere International Airport, Dar es Salaam, Mr. Membe and his aide were taken in for questioning by the police. I'm wondering what happened to COVID checks, but anyway, that's another question. The Dar es Salaam Special Zone Police Commander, SACP Luzaro Mambo Sasa, in his address to the media on Thursday, later confirmed the arrest of Mr. Luanda and added that he's being held at an unnamed police station and will be charged for money laundering. Bang goes that presidential dream. But anyway, these things happen. If you're in politics, you know that these are the kind of things you're going to meet. Alas, this concludes this edition of the Ear on East Africa. I want to say really thank you to Beverly Ashan for producing this piece, and hope to be able to bring you more interesting and exciting pieces going forward for this show. Thank you once again, and we'll be right back and jump right into the conversation on the unbearable lightness of being an ECOWAS citizen. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back from the break. Welcome once again to another edition of Agenda 2063 TV show, the only show giving you important updates, developments from Ghana, the region, the subcontinent, and wherever else. So I'm happy to be coming to your homes, your laptops, and wherever else you may be to provide you the latest important information on anything and everything related to Agenda 2063. Agenda 2063 is still the mothership program. And today, as with a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to get back to Aspiration 3 of Agenda 2063, which speaks to the whole issue of good governance, democracy, rules-based governance, if you will. For those of you who like SDGs, this is probably closer to Sustainable Development Goal 16, which speaks to peaceful, inclusive, and just societies. But we must also be promoting our own Agenda 2063 because we have always had these plans and we not enough people know about it. But I think we're making important headway. And so we're very happy once again to be coming to you. And we're going to be speaking to an important topic today, which has dogged the landscape of Ghana for quite a while now. Ghana and Nigeria. Now let's look at this. Ghana and Nigeria, just like Canada, USA, Kenya, Uganda, all these countries, large countries, neighbors, they always have spats. Sometimes it's over trade, sometimes it's over other issues and so on and so forth. So it'll be recalled, for example, that one of the reasons why the first East African community, that's 67, that started in 67, collapsed was because of spats between Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Kenya was complaining that, or rather, let me correct that. It was actually Tanzania that was complaining that Kenya was vying for too many positions. Even though East Africa community is based in Tanzania, Arusha, there was just about positioning who had more institutions and all these things, very petty things, and the whole thing collapsed in 77 to be finally reanimated in the year 2000. So these things do happen, they can cause serious problems, but we believe that always it's the best progress can be made when we talk things through. And I think for the Ghana-Nigeria issue that has been dominating airways for a while now, it's important to revisit the issue, look at it from a different perspective and see what can be done a bit differently. Reason for which we have a civil society expert here with us today. She's called Omolara Balogun. Waxy will be whipping me for that. She works with West Africa Civil Society Institute. West Africa Civil Society Institute has been around for a while, since around 2005. And they've been doing great work on promoting people-centered policies and plans around the sub-region, and also looking a bit about sustainable financing, philanthropy, or what can we do within the sub-region to raise, a bit more financing for the work that CSOs also do. But I know that Omolara will help us unpack that before we get into the actual. So let me just quickly zoom into Omolara. Omolara, once again, welcome to the studios of AAU TV. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we actually zoom into the discussion.
My name is Omolara Balogun, and I'm the current head of Policy Influencing and Advocacy Department of West Africa Civil Society Institute, popularly known as WACSI. Like you rightly said, WACSI was set up in 2005 by the Open Society Initiative for West Africa, basically to strengthen the capacity of civil society across the region. If you're familiar with our current strategy, we are looking at a West Africa, a prosperous West Africa, whose development is driven by its people, which is actually in tandem with what ECOWAS, AU is trying to achieve, on the continent. In WACSI, we look at how civil society can have their capacity strengthened, and we have three main programmatic areas. We look at capacity development, which provides civil society different training programs where they are lagging behind, be it institutional strengthening, operational strengthening, financial system, leadership and governance, and M&E, all those things that makes an institution to be strong. This is what our capacity development department handles. And then we have the second department, which looks at knowledge management. Here we're talking about creating knowledge for civil society's work, documenting the work of civil society, giving civil society actors the platforms to write their own stories, to tell their stories, to contribute to knowledge production of the region, and also contribute knowledge to inform policy development. I mean, knowledge that policymakers can use to make people-centered, policies. And the third area in which we work, which is where I heard, is policy influencing and advocacy. Here we are looking at about 2-3 things. One is creating platforms for civil society to engage between and among themselves, and for civil society to engage with other development stakeholders, to engage with government, engage with private sector, engage with donor community, engage with RECs, regional economic blocks like ECOWAS. So we do a lot of convening, a lot of dialogues, policy dialogues and all of that. And outcomes of this dialogues are used, as an action tool to further engage this policymakers to take actions on whatever has been discussed and decided upon. And the second area is actually influencing policy. Now, this is something that in some part we don't do ourselves. We collaborate with civil society. We like to facilitate these policy influencing processes rather than having to dominate it. So we work with different civil society organizations working on diverse topical issues or policy issues, climate change, children's health, or governance, democracy, elections, which are not thematic areas that we have expertise on. But we collaborate with these organizations to really ensure that they are delivering on their mandate as effective and efficient as possible. And there are specific policy issues that cross-cut civil society landscape that we feel that we have that mandate to also influence, and galvanize support for example, civil society sustainability. Irrespective of the thematic area in which you're functioning, you need sustainability. You want to be there, 10, 20, 50, 100 years, from now. How do you do that? What are the mechanisms you have to put in place as an organization to ensure that you don't die out, be it as a lack of resources or lack of leader or whatever. So we look a lot into how civil society can, we can strengthen and build up that area of work in terms of sustainability. We also look at directly civil society regulations. You agree with me that there's been a lot of disenabling environment growth across the region or the continent generally. We have had instances where there's been incessant human rights violations. There's been, disruption to civil organizing. There's been, restriction on rights to assembly, right to association, and all of that. Generally, there's been a lot of repression policies that try to constrain or restrain civil society civic space. For example, different policies from government that try to reduce the space in which civil society operate, and which, of course, do hamper the work that they do, their operations and all of that. So we look at issues around civil society regulations, the different kind of laws that our governments are putting in place to regulate the civic space, to regulate the work that civil society are doing in their respective countries, to ensure that these laws, where they are not good, we kind of influence that process to ensure that this government take a second look at their law. For example, currently in Ghana, we've been working with the Department of Social Welfare, the NGO desk, to look at the new NGO policy, NPO policy, and then the NPO law 2020. We are currently working on that now to ensure we have something that is more fit for purpose for today's civil society in Ghana. And this is something that we hope to replicate across the region in order for civil society to have an enabled environment, to operate and, contribute as effectively as possible to development, which is really the work that we do. And we also have a very huge program for young people. We call it the Next Generation Internship Program, which has actually grown for over 12 years now. We have a component of it that supports the development process for young West Africans. They come in from their respective countries, they stay 6 months with us to learn about the civil society landscape, the ecosystem generally, and of course pick their interest in whatever area they would like to pursue further. We also have a component of the program that looks at, we call it a fellowship program, which gives opportunity for young researchers, PhD students to come into WACSI and have a space, to document the work that they're doing and, produce some knowledge in their areas of interest. We have the third component, which is, we call it Civil Society Leadership Institute. It is a program that looks at middle-level managers within the civil society sector coming together to enhance their leadership skills, preparing them for next level of leadership within civil society. You agree with me that one of the danger that we are seeing within our space is actually, if care is not taken, we may be facing an extinction of leaders within the civil society sector. So how do we prepare the next level of leaders within the organizations, middle-level managers to get, to have that interest and get themselves prepared for executive director position, programs director position, and all of that. So this CSLI prepares, this level of actors for that role. And so this is what we do as WACSI. We have a lot of engagement across the region. We actually work in 18 countries. The ECOWAS 15 countries, we call the ECOWAS 15 countries, as we call it, is political West Africa. But we cover geographical West Africa, which includes Cameroon, Chad, and Mauritania. You see all of them are in the western part of the continent. So Yes. In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. That's what you
do.
But I'm happy to hear all the great things that you're doing, because just to back up on your last point, for example, about the role of civil society, you know, and leadership. If we look at someone like Mr. Emmanuel Bombande, Honorable Bombande, he came from a civil society background,
Yes.
and now he went into Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and now he's playing a leadership role of the UN in Central Africa.
Yeah.
So clearly, and because of the civil society perspectives that he has been able to get from WANEP, he's been able to bring that to bear in any discussions that he has on radio, in what may be arguably a very animated political climate that we live in. He's always able to tone it down, because he knows the terrain and how to use civil society. So clearly, that's a very, very great work that you're doing. In 2015, I had the privilege of, I was invited by WACSI to attend, I think, the 40th anniversary of WACSI. I think they held something in one of the hotels down here about, I think it was celebrating, I think it was the Commonwealth, something to do with the Commonwealth. And looking at ECOWAS some 40 years. And so clearly I know that WACSI has been doing great work trying to engage ECOWAS. But as we know, for those ECOWAS staff who are watching, we know that some of you, your hands are tied and you can't do anything. But please try and untie them so that we can move forward with ECOWAS a little bit, because ECOWAS is doing well. I mean, when you speak to people, ECOWAS, they say, is doing great things. ECOWAS is probably the only region that has said only 2 terms per president and so on and so forth. We know what happened in Gambia in 2017. And so when we look at things like Ghana-Nigeria dispute, we are wondering, why is this thing happening? So today's title is CSOs and the Unbearable Lightness of Being an ECOWAS Citizen. Yeah, you know how we like funny titles on this show. But, and this is just one of them. Just to remind you that, yes, ECOWAS is doing well, but still, why is it that when you're in Ghana, you're Ghanaian, you're Nigerian? Ghana, of all places, should be the place where Ghanaians and Nigerians should coexist, because of what we've been able to go through together. And if you recall, 3 weeks ago, I did a show saying that ECOMOG Day, I'm celebrating ECOMOG Day. No one is doing it. I will celebrate ECOMOG Day on 25th August because of the centrality of Nigerians and Ghanaians and Senegalese, what they did with ECOMOG, you know, getting, you know, Charles Taylor out with ECOMOG. Why are we not celebrating across the region? We need to be doing more things like that to solidarize our minds around the fact that we are all West Africans, and as a community, we are working as a community. We don't need the Europeans to come and dictate how they do their regional integration. We have different forms of integration that exist. So to the specific case, Omolara, of this Ghana-Nigerian dispute, I think it's already common knowledge what is happening. But for those who don't know, maybe you can give us a bit of a brief background and then tell us exactly what you as WACSI is doing specifically on the issue of adding value to the debate, because I think people would like to know why a civil society perspective on this Ghana-Nigeria dispute.
Okay, thank you so much, Emmanuel. Yeah. I think, like you rightly said, it's something that is quite common, and I've read a number of articles that talks about, you know, these people, they are cousins, so, you know, cousins do fight and all of that. But I think it's important that we begin to address the issues. One of the points you raised recently is about how ECOWAS has fared thus far. And you agree with me that when we're talking about regional economic blocks across the continent, the ECOWAS, the IGAs, the ECAs, and all of that, ECOWAS happens to be one that has, gone, not only support, but we've done a lot. Yeah, we've done a lot. We have a lot of beautiful documents, beautiful texts, from peace and security to regional integration to industrialization. I mean, we seem to have everything captured. I think one of the issues that we are facing is actually how to implement. And it's important that we say at this point, implementation will not be done at the Secretariat in Abuja. It has to be done across our countries. So coming back to these issues, I think, first of all, we have a lot of misunderstanding going around, and this is why I appreciate a platform like this where we can clarify some of the issues. And I'm Nigerian. I've been here for over 12 years, so I'm Ghanaian, if you like.
Yeah, Ghanaian sister.
But the point is, at this point, it's interesting the way the stories and the issues have been played out.
Yeah.
Now we have a country, Ghana, which has, a sovereign state, which has different policies, and one of it says that this one is to protect the market for the locals. Okay. Talking about the GIPC Act, it talks about, no non-Ghanaian should not participate in retail businesses. Yes. If you're a foreigner and you like to participate in businesses whatsoever, you have to bring certain amount of money. It used to be $300,000 as investment. Now it's $1 million. Now this is interesting. And Ghana is very clear about non-Ghanaian. Yes. So because we have a huge number of Nigerians here, doing businesses, we have history of intermarriages, and Ghana, Nigeria, and I was at a forum recently, and somebody said, what are you people doing in Ghana? And I said, you know what, let me educate you. Yeah. When a Nigerian leaves the shores of Nigeria, when you get to Badagry, the border between Nigeria, Lagos, and Benin Republic. Okay. It's difficult to stay in Benin because of language barrier, thanks to the Europeans. We inherited a lot of crisis, know, and this person proceeds further and gets into Togo. It's also difficult to stay in there. Yeah. So why not Ghana? Yeah. And don't forget, years back where we had a lot of intra-migration within the region. This was a time where Liberia and Sierra Leone were going through the civil war and crisis, so nobody was going to leave either for fun or for business or whatever. Civil war in Liberia lasted for 14 years. So for those 14 years, when Nigerians not moving, they were moving. So a lot of people came into Ghana and all of that. And we have a very long, old history. Now, the point is, when people move, they move with one or two interests at mind, which includes either staying back, doing businesses, intermarrying, and all of that. And this has gone on for a while, albeit peacefully. And of course, we have history of the Ghana must go, Nigeria must go, like 2-3 times, in between and all of that. But today, we are talking about issues and instances that is bigger than the crisis that we have faced in the past. Now, this is what is currently going on. Ghana has gone ahead to implement this new GIPC. It's a local law. It's the law of the land, and they want to implement it. But there are clauses which Ghana needs to take a look at. And there have been different, debates. There have been instances where people have said that, well, Ghana is trying to push the implementation of this law because Nigeria also locked its borders. So when people are raising the issue of ECOWAS protocol and all of that, it's like, okay, we have both frustrated or broken or violated this ECOWAS protocol. Yes. But what pains me most, and this is from civil society perspective, is that the leadership of this region itself rests on the shoulders of these two countries. Yeah. Be it at the ECOWAS level or you're looking at it politically or whatever it is. Now, when you look at history, even though the establishment of ECOWAS was spearheaded by Ghana and Togo and all of that, the role of Ghana, Nigeria and Togo, the role of Ghana cannot be underplayed. And it's been like that. We cannot forget the role Dr. Ibn Chambers played in shooting up ECOWAS. Yeah, we cannot. Not only to the continent, to the world actually. Yeah. You see, so when we look at some of these gains and some of the spots that is going on now, it just breaks our heart. Now the point is, as of today, we're looking at ECOWAS protocols that talks about free movement of persons and goods, which is what the majority are claiming should come into play at this point. Yes. And really, this policy that Ghana has is not against Nigeria. That is my understanding. It is not, it's against non-Ghanaians. Now, the question is, at what point can we define a non-Ghanaian, but that is West Africa. And this is why everybody's looking at ECOWAS. Now, the ECOWAS protocols on free movement of persons and goods, the trade liberalization, the different trade policies, the regional integration programs that we have, this is where we need to call it into play. Now, it's painful that at a point where we have such policies in place at the ECOWAS level, and then we are talking about promoting continental free trade area, which is also, coincidentally located here in Ghana. It's not a time for us to be pushing protectionist agenda
at all,
because it's going to counter the desires that we have, which this protocols actually gives us room for. So I think at this point, it is important for us to educate our people. Yes. Because to an average Ghanaian within the business environment, the retail environment, you can't blame them. This is the law of the land, but this is where our leaders need to play very active role. But it's so shameful that it's rather been passive or just quiet from both sides, at least for a very long time. And this is actually what got the issues out on social media, and people are talking about it. As I speak today, most of the shops, if not all, of those Nigerians that were locked, they were not only Nigerians, but of course, if you lock 100 shops and you have 95 Nigerians, it's actually Nigerian shops. But of course, I believe there are other nationals who were also caught in these traps and all of that. But it's time for us to actually take leadership. How do we ensure that we do not have local policies that jeopardize, our collective policies or protocols at the ECOWAS level, or desires even for the region, and even at large the continent? There is no way we're going to achieve the goal of AFCTFA if every one of us, Ghana, Nigeria, Togo, want to, are protectionist in their policies and all of that. And it's as good as we are wasting our time with AFCFTA, if you get what I mean. So I think we need to harmonize our policies.
And I think, if I may interrupt, there's also an important bit of education that is necessary. Because a lot of people, when you speak to some organizations connected to this trade spat, they will tell you that, we are in Ghana. ECOWAS laws doesn't mean anything. We are a member of ECOWAS, but it doesn't mean anything. And therefore, what they are doing is wrong, as in what Nigeria is doing is wrong, and so on and so forth. It's all about education, because, as you say, this is where leadership needs to come in, because leadership needs to come in and say, look, by virtue of the fact that ECOWAS exists, and Ghana signed up to ECOWAS, and the 1993 revised treaty confers sovereignty on Ghana and Nigeria. Therefore, part of their sovereignty goes to ECOWAS and the sub-region. Therefore, the laws that come with ECOWAS means that you must abide by what is coming from Abuja, which says ECOWAS community.
Honestly,
citizens. So that is the education that is missing.
This education is not only the problem. And honestly, we are seeing this play out probably because we are in Ghana and all of that. There are so many ECOWAS countries who do not accept ECOWAS travel certificate, for example, especially the Francophone countries. I have experienced that a number of times.
When it's visa-free.
Exactly. They will tell you, they can't take this passport. Where is your Nigerian passport? So it's not only Ghana. Most of our countries need to have a relook at their local policies, and which one contradicts ECOWAS's protocols or whatever. And it's a leadership thing. Leadership, education, and of course willingness to let go of some of your sovereignty in order for us to build a collective, prosperous West Africa. If you look at Agenda 2020, I mean, it's 2020, maybe 3 months to the end of 2020, we have a lot of issues that we need to tackle. We have a lot of discussions, to have. And some of them are happening, here and there, but we really need to speak boldly about the different 5, thematic areas that we have within that agenda, and see how we are fed, from the integration to industrialization to jobs and all of that. And really, I believe there is no way we can push a common agenda at the level of ECOWAS if we remain protectionist of our various territories. There is no way. So we are simply wasting our time. So it's important that we educate our people, but you cannot educate people if the political will of the leaders to really push what they have collectively agreed at the ECOWAS platform, it's going to be difficult. Now we have President Nana Akufo-Addo as the chair of the commission. I
I thought that's interesting. So we're watching, we want to see the changes that will be made, because really, there must be some changes. Like I said, the time of Dr. Ibn Chambers was one that we still talk about today. But instead of going up, things nosedive at some point, and this is where we find ourselves. So I think it's important that we not only invest in education, and for civil society, this is a time for us to really push the case out there. Because if we don't educate people about what ECOWAS is and all of that, the citizens will react, and they have the right to, because this is the law of the land. But do they know something else? Have you told them something else? Have they heard the president or the minister talking about local law vis-a-vis that of ECOWAS, what it means? You know, you don't even have to hear it from some abstract or invisible person in ECOWAS. People, you need to talk to your own people. Liberia, the Gambia, tell your people what ECOWAS is, what you have agreed, how it affects our local laws. Let's revise, reform, whatever is necessary. And then we move on. The agenda of the goal of AFCTFA is it's been there for long. ECOWAS ought to have gone beyond that, because we started this conversation since 1975. It was all about economic integration and so on. And we are here, AFCTFA have met us here, and we are all stuck together, you know?
Yes, so I guess this is a show that needs a part 2, but for now, it is important, all good things come to an end. So it is at this stage where I need to ask you to, at least in your concluding remarks, just tell us a bit, in your view, about what WACSI, therefore, is in the next couple of weeks going to actively do, so that people can also follow, whether it's a webinar, whether it's some activity, to also offer some support.
Absolutely. So because our leaders have kept quiet for long, or they have tried to make it a diplomatic engagement, you know, exclusive of people, citizens, and all of that, we thought it is time, because our citizens are the ones affected. Pitching our citizens, when we said that ECOWAS is to be an ECOWAS of people and not that of heads of state. We can't have leaders keeping quiet while citizens are at each other's, you know, throats at opera squares and all of that. We should find a platform to facilitate that brotherhood and working together. So this is the role of civil society. Civil society needs to speak up. Civil society needs to educate. Civil society needs to engage. So what WACSI will be doing next week, 30th of this month, we're going to be having a webinar where we're going to be bringing together these two countries, their representative at the embassy level, at the High Commission level, and then the traders themselves, their representatives, and of course some other experts to really tell us what implications, you know, lie ahead that we should look at, and how can we resolve some of this things. For example, honestly, in this engagement, when you look at China, rarely would you get into a country in the world that you not have a China village or Chinatown. I mean, what are we talking about? It's really,
and we've accepted it.
Yeah, and we've accepted it. You go to Chinatown, you get all the things you want and all of that. It's a way they have engaged with the respective countries. Go to East and Southern Africa. Chinatown everywhere. Even here in Nigeria, we have, in Ghana, I'm sure they have a Chinatown somewhere. Why can't we have a West African town where trades, you know, it's really difficult to swallow that as a Nigerian or as Togolese, I'm being termed foreigner in Ghana.
No, it cannot happen.
It's really difficult. I'm not a foreigner, so what am I going to call a Japanese? Foreigner is to power 2 or what? I don't know. So I think we really need to find a way to re-identify ourselves. And that has a lot to do with understanding what ECOWAS really means, ECOWAS of people, what it means. That people within the ECOWAS of people really need to be redefined, and that narrative needs to go into the minds of every citizen in this region. I think it's important. So please, our colleagues should join us for this webinar on the 30th of September, where we'll be dissecting the Ghana-Nigeria trade feuds and you know, collecting some ideas on how we can move forward. But I think from me, Ghana, Nigeria forever.
Definitely. That's a very nice note on which to end. Thank you so very much, Omolara, for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with us, and speedy recovery as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do understand that, like I said, there's not always enough time to exhaust some of these issues, but we are very grateful that you have come to at least offer this important understanding so that we can begin to chart a new course, because now the After Secretariat is here. We need to get a little bit more serious also on how we can relate what the AU is saying and ECOWAS is saying on these things. These institutions are here to stay, and we need to make them right, make them accountable. So very, very, very happy to have you here today to help unpack that for our audiences. And I believe that we can probably do another part 2 once it's over, so that we'll be able to assess how it went and then the way forward as well. Yeah. So once again,
I'll be happy to share, because I'm hoping that we have some good insight from the speakers from the webinar.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be happy to share.
Thank you so very much, Omolara. Once again, so this was a largely purely West African agenda on Agenda 2063, but you know, as you will know, that all these things are part and parcel of the same conversation. Prosperous Africa, prosperous West Africa, we're all trying to just create a continent, a region that fits us well. And ECOWAS as a global player, and AU as a global player, is about the African as a global citizen. And that's the most important thing that we should remember from this. And so when you're going over this video, or when you're going back to your Agenda 2063 books, please do look through Aspiration 3. Aspiration 7 talks about the AU as a global player. Aspiration 3 talks about rules-based governance, good governance, and all these things. Take a look at your aspirations and see how they fit into the regional, how they fit into the continental. And these are some of the only ways in which we can really take the African, to greater heights. So once again, thank you for the production, as well, the production crew, for the great work that you're doing, and AAU TV as well for offering this platform. I'm sure you can see their promotion here as well. This is the promotion, very good promotion that they're doing. And for all the people who have been connected to AAU TV, we're doing great work to make sure that the Africans are also telling their story. Thank you once again. But buried inside that promotion also is the need for education, because the Association of African Universities is reminding us that we must pay attention to our education and pay attention to academia, researchers, and all these things who can also help carry the torch of the conversations around Africa's integration. So once again, thank you. My name is E.K Bensah Jr., your regular host for this show. Thank you once again for coming, taking time out to speak among yourselves about this issue. Continue the conversation. We would like to hear from you on Twitter, Facebook, and wherever else, and we speak to you hopefully next week. Thank you once again. Have a great day. Goodbye.